You're listening to Trot's Life on SEN Track with Jason Bonington and Tim O'Connor. Brought to you by Garrard's Horse and Hound. Best range at the lowest prices.
Yeah, welcome everyone. It is the final hour of the Thursday edition of Trot's Life. John Donohoe with you. Tim O'Connor, your host. No Jason Bonington today. Just staying home and preparing for the lids fly tonight after a COVID vax yesterday. We're still not sure why he decided not to come in today, Toc. But anyway, he'll have to answer to that question tomorrow, I am sure.
He probably loves us detailing his daily private life on air every day.
He does. He is the one that announces these things anyway.
Yeah,
it was his
he
birthday
wouldn't
the other.
care.
You know what he did the other day before we get Michael Gearin up and Shepparton race for his moments away? He actually did walk around the office and was asking people to wish him a happy birthday. That's not a joke. That's actually
Really?
not a joke. He said the older he's gotten, the more he likes people wishing him happy birthday. So,
Well, I did give him a shout out. What is he? 40 what?
42.
42.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Anyway, hey, let's get to the fourth at Shepparton. We'll come back and we'll speak to Michael Gearin and get all the latest of the happenings in the world of harness racing over in NZ.
Market. It's been the big market springer. We're set to go. It's the Tab Long May We Play. Tier 3 Grade 7, the fourth. Set. Racing. Very bad start there from All Fear. Missed it by 4. And looking for an early leader here. Evans Almighty's in the mix, and so too Huntley Fly goes forward. Another Mick is getting shunted back, but it's Huntley Fly who led Evans Almighty, followed by Princess Vegas, Rocket Ruby, Pocket Ruby for the back of the field. Then All Fear. Another Mick out wide. Then came Krakenstein and Riptide Buddy in the straight. Huntley Flyer and Evans Almighty. Huntley Flyer has beaten Evans Almighty, and third will go to another Mick.
6 gets the job done there at a very wet Shepparton. They've got photo up, but the 6-1, and I'm not telling...
Oh, hang on. You haven't got a great record today.
No, the 6, if you're watching, the 6 has absolutely bolted in there. So it will be 6, 2 and 5, your numbers there. Another Mick finishing in third. No, I'm spot on. See, 6, 2 and 5.
The 2's gone in the frame.
Yeah, 6, 2 and 5. Yeah, settle down. All right, let's head over to New Zealand and join our great mate, Michael Gearin, who joins us on the line. Welcome, Mick.
Hello, lads. Hope you're going well. It's actually a bit more forward than usual over here in New Zealand. We're on daylight savings time, so we're 3 hours ahead of you. Some would say maybe 10 years behind you, but considering we're both in COVID, we're all stuck in the same boat, fellas.
We're in the same boat. Yeah, of course. I think our daylight we're just chatting at home here the other day. I think it's this weekend for our daylight
Sunday.
savings.
I want to say Sunday into Monday, I think.
Then that really feels like cricket season, doesn't it? You
Yeah.
can train till the late hours of the night. So, look, looking forward to that. Mick, plenty to talk about in harness racing, and I reckon we might start off with a horse, Self Assured. I'm just looking back through his record. I mean, he's well known in New Zealand, and he's well known here too. He won the Queensland Derby in 2019. I remember him running a ripper race at the Ballarat Cup, running second to AG's White Sox, who I've just seen a little story drop in my inbox from you. So we might be able to tie the two together, but we're going to see Self Assured back at the races.
Yeah, he's back tomorrow at Addington, and it sort of feels like the open class season in New Zealand is getting serious. Just on AG's White Sox, he's got a lesion or a tendon, so he's gone for the remainder of 2021. He's out of the New Zealand Cup. But we've had some lead-up races, but the Cup winner hasn't been there. So Self Assured's the defending champion. Amazing Dream, I think, is drifting to make the trip after the Victoria Cup, but she's in Victoria. And obviously Copy That's been to Queensland. So they all start rolling out. Amazing Dream last week, Self Assured tomorrow, Copy That next week. And then the Cup picture is going to become a lot clearer. Also, South Coast Arden is back tomorrow at Addington. So the horses who are going to win the Cup are starting in the next couple of weeks. Self Assured's the best of them. We know that. But Mark Purdon resumes his training career after an unusual sabbatical of about 10 months tomorrow. So he's not licensed to train right now. He will be from 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And he'll be driving Self Assured. There's going to be a story pop up on the trots.com tomorrow where Mark Purdon says, be awfully careful about Self Assured. I'm telling the SEN listeners first because I don't want them doing anything silly on the futures punting or the early punting, I should say. Standing start's a bit of a concern. He doesn't think the horse is fit enough to win, and he's going to drive them conservative. Now, this is always buyer beware. These horses can still win, and sometimes they do win. But Mark's a conservative person, and he is saying, I wouldn't be backing him tomorrow. I'll be happy if he runs top 3. Mark and Natalie are also looking after South Coast Arden, who they think will be the big mover of the New Zealand Open class ranks. he's got an unruly draw tomorrow in the standing start, so that's a bit of a concern. I think it's a race primed for a potential upset. The Dunn team have Classy Brigade and Henry Huberton. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try and dominate the race on the speed lead trail and give themselves a chance of beating the Purdon horse or South Coast Arden. So, interesting race at Addington tomorrow night. Also resuming at Addington is Majestic Man. Now, he's the one New Zealand horse almost certain to go to the Inter-Dominions. He's back against Sunday Sun in the big trot, and we know him from last year or last season, obviously, in Victoria, being very good at Melton and then winning a Group 1 also at Menangle. He's Rain, Hail or Shine going to go to the Inter-Dominions in Sydney, whereas I think most of the other horses nominated this week when the entries closed on Monday are sort of 50-50 to go because of COVID mainly. That might increase to 70-30 if the series goes to being held exclusively at Menangle rather than going to Bathurst and Newcastle. So there's a lot in play at the moment, a lot of pieces on the chessboard, and they're going to start moving very, very quickly over the next 6 or 8 weeks. But the one thing for sure is Self Assured's back tomorrow, and from tomorrow morning, so's the best trainer in the game, Mark Purdon, back in business.
Oh, it's very exciting. And that Purdon name's one we hear a lot with a different first name over here, Nathan Purdon. You passed on the number for Crandall Getty during the week, Mick, and I really appreciate that because he was a fantastic interview yesterday. We spoke about his horse that he sent out, a 3-year-old in Sugar Me. Nathan's had the horse for about 8-9 days now, heading into the Derby heats on Saturday night. From Cran's own words, he said it's a wild card entry, I suppose, and it's a bit of a throw at the stumps. So, do you know much about this horse, Sugar Me, and should we be respecting him? He's a $6 chance to win the Derby in the overall all-in market. But do you know much about him?
Yeah, look, in New Zealand, when you get a horse above sort of 2 in grade, you see them all because we only race 2 or 3 times a week, so you know the horses pretty quickly, and unless they're racing at somewhere like Manawa 2, which I don't really pay attention to. But he's a good horse. He's been knocked for 6 by the barrier draw. He's not a horse who can come sit 3 wide. He's not a change-up speed horse who stomps over the top of them. He's a horse who likes to get rolling. Wasn't the greatest gated horse. So the second line draw really hurts him because had he drawn the front line, he could have worked forward, and with the respect of having Puppet and the Sulky, maybe get the lead. And then he's probably good enough to beat these horses. Coming wide on a smaller track than he's used to, because Addington's a fair bit bigger than Bendigo, I don't like him at all. I'm not saying he can't win. I just don't like him any more than I like Act Now or Pat's Beach Storm. He's probably a better horse than Pat's Beach Storm. He's probably comparable to Act Now, but this type of racing I don't think will suit him, and therefore I think the Puppet will move around, sit parked, and try and get into the final, which is what Derby heats traditionally are all about. So,
can he win the final, though, Mick?
Horses, and I've seen it. No, he can't win the final.
You don't think, even if he drew well?
Put it this way, if every horse in the final is at their maximum capabilities and has exactly the same run, he won't beat American Dealer. That just won't happen. Not unless he's gained 14 since he's crossed the Tasman. It's an unusual Derby, but anybody having a bet in the Derby final, I know the final's Saturday week, American Dealer has 2 reasons he should win the final. First of all, he's been doing this for a year. A year ago, he was racing as a 3-year-old. He's still 3. So he raced Krug and Sire Stakes and New Zealand Derbies and Great Northern Derbies. And he's been in more wars than most NRL football players have going into the final on Sunday. So he's rock hard. Most of these other horses haven't had that experience. They've had some experience, but they haven't had that level of experience. The other thing, too, is you need to run top 3 to get in the final. Now, as much as I respect the ability of Bondi Lockdown and respect the ability of many of these horses, the only 2 horses you would say are certain to run top 3 are Major Moth, because he'll go forward and he'll probably lead, and therefore he'll be in the top 3. And American Dealer just doesn't go a bad race. So he'll get in the top 3, and then you're in the final. So then it comes down to barrier draws, but the New Zealand trained horses or ex-trained horses have such an enormous advantage once you get past 2,200 metres. Let's call it 22. 24 if you get them an angle. 26.50 for most Australian 3-year-olds, and I know it's a different type of 3-year-old racing, but it's just their eyeballs just hanging out of their heads. Because a lot of these horses who've been racing in the grades in Victoria, they're lovely horses, but they haven't raced over 2,600 metres. and they're not used to that type of thing, and they sure haven't done it at Group 3 level or whatever these heats should be. So American Dealer, he's no superstar. He's not Lazarus, but he just sets up beautifully for this final, as does Major Moth, because he just jump into the lead this week, go around and be a huge chance of winning the final. But American Dealer has a lot more big-time experience than Major Moth or any of these other horses have. So no bias in that at all. That's just data over 20 years says that New Zealand horses, the longer a derby is, the more likely they are to win it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point and really fascinating to get your insights there because, I thought the same with American Dealer. I thought he was probably the one to beat. I'm just going to read a few lines of a story that's just gone up on our website, thetrots.com.au, Mick, and I just wanted to get your reaction to it. It's, I guess, maybe from a comment from New Zealand. Cody Winnell's put up a story. Victorian harness racing web and digital engagement with people aged 18 to 35 has climbed 250% since 2019. Engagement at thetrots.com.au with that age bracket has grown from 140,000 annually in 2019 to 500,000. That's a fantastic result for us here in Victoria, and I'm sure you'd echo those sentiments as well. You'd be rapt to see that 18 to 35-year-old demographic becoming interested in the trots. Is that something you're seeing over there in New Zealand, or is that something you need to work on over there?
Our website's been very, very good for a long time, but it's done differently. So we have two vastly different things. We have a website which has a lot of stories on it, hrnz.co.nz, and then we have a television channel, whereas your website's becoming both. It's becoming your television channel as well. Now, it's slightly different because harness racing's a lot bigger in New Zealand than it is in Australia because the gallops are a lot smaller, and we give harness racing, it used to be outstanding coverage, now it's okay coverage, whereas Sky hasn't given it great coverage for quite a while because gallops are so big and the Landies holds the reins at Sky. So there's people will go where there's content which is easily digestible, and the trots.com are getting their heads around that and doing a really good job with it. A lot of times the stuff which people put on Instagram or Twitter or stuff is too long. Yeah, it's just too long, and therefore people won't engage with it. So the other thing too is younger audiences have spent a lot more time on their phone in the last 2 years because of COVID. So it's definitely the way of the future. The trots.com's leading that path by a mile in Australia. It's overtaken the New Zealand website, and to be honest, it's probably the best one in the world now for harness racing. And the engagement with the young people is good, but then again, they've got nowhere else to go for that content. I think the thing they've done right is they've made Saturday nights entertaining, because a lot of the other nights don't really matter. People will want to watch on Tuesday, watch harness, they'll watch it, but you're not going to get new audiences to watch it very often. But you've got to make Saturday night good. Look, I watched the AFL final last week, and yes, I wanted the D's to win because I know a couple of the players, but it was well done. And if it's done shit, then no one wants to watch it, but it's well done. And that's the same as harness racing. You've got to make it entertaining. If you just make it, and by far the biggest mistake, absolute hugest mistake that people make in racing coverage is tipping 4 horses per race. Nobody on God's earth has ever walked on a racetrack, looked another person in the eye and said, Billy, tip me 4 on the next, brother.
Yeah, you're right. You're spot on.
And they persist on doing it. Now, the TABs make their staff do it because they want to drive first 4 betting, but no one ever bets on first 4s either. So until people get their heads around it, I was talking to Adam Hamilton about some content we're going to do for Ladbrokes coming up, and I said, enough of this shit. This has got to stop. This 4-tip stuff is rubbish. Now, young people want 2 or 3 tips a night, and they want maybe the bestie in this race and maybe, so they can, if they want to bet every race, give them a tip per race. But until we grow up and stop giving people 4 tips a race, we're making fools of ourselves. And I think trots.com's got to the stage where they're willing to talk about the fun stuff in racing. Here's what I'm having a bet on, that sort of thing. But and any racing presenter who's not forced to do it by their job in Australasia, who's going to be 4 tips a race, doesn't understand the audience.
Yeah, I think you're right. With you'd rather have a staking plan each race, or you've got $100 in your hand. What are you going to do with it? Let's turn that 100 into as much as we can.
That's exactly right. So the bottom line is people have $20 to spend or $100 to spend, and some people have $1,000 to spend, and they should bet responsibly. But giving them 4 tips in order doesn't mean anything to me. What I want you to say to me is, hey, look, if this is $2, have your 50 on this and cover $50 on this at the 6.5, and you either have a chop out or you make your $225. That's what I want to hear from someone. I don't want to hear And the worst thing is when people get people to 4 horses, is, Tim, they come on after the race and say, I had that in 4.
Yeah.
Well, no one backs 4 horses in a race. So, as I said, racing presentation's got a long way to come, but unfortunately the agenda's been set by TABs, and most of the people who run TABs, and absolutely the people who run marketing departments of TABs, don't bet and don't understand betting. So what something like Harness Racing Victoria has the opportunity to do with the trots is say, well, let's rethink this, because we're in a small space, and make it more easily digestible. And I think that's what it's done really well in the last 6 months to a year. And now they need to work on the television coverage, because you've got to decide how big you want to make it.
Well,
do you want to have Sky involved, or you just want to pipe trots vision into Sky? And if that's what you're going to do, I reckon that's a really big opportunity to tell really good stories. So I applaud Harness Racing Victoria for taking those steps. And, hey, there's a long way to go, but as you said, the numbers are showing that it's engaging a lot more people than what we're doing on Sky, who, even with someone I really like Brittany Graham, they have to work to a template because their bosses are working to the galloping template, and that's dictated by people who simply don't know.
Fantastic to chat, Mick, and get your insight. We're going to take this 5th race at Shepparton, so that might be a great time to let you go. Really appreciate it. Fascinating chat. My last go for a few weeks in the hosting chair, but no doubt we'll cross paths pretty soon. Thanks, mate.
Tim, you've done a good job, mate. Well done. Good luck to the punters on the weekend.
Thank you, mate. Mick Guerin there, JD, with a great wrap out of New Zealand. Great to get his insight, particularly heading into the Derby heats this Saturday night.
Absolutely. They're kicking off at Gatton here as well, Toc. So we've got the horses starting, but let's get to Shep firstly.
And American Red.
Kisses, Masters on Metro out wide from Del Toro Quest, behind those Bella Dreamtime, Compton Lucy, and last of all is Eileen J. Hugs and Kisses has the front in the first leg of the quaddie on the bend, leads out by 2 over Masters on Metro. Further back then Wicked One, and also No Alibi from Del Toro Quest, but it's Hugs and Kisses who wins it. Masters on Metro second, Wicked One third, then Del Toro Quest, Bella Dreamtime, Eileen J, and Compton Lucy, and No Alibi is running last.
Hugs and Kisses, Timothy gets the win there in the 5th at Shep. I'm just looking for the numbers.
What are they? It'll be heard of those for a while.
Toc. The 2 gets the job done. They've taken the numbers away very quickly, so we'll give you the final placings there. They've gone full screen to Gatton now, so that'll be one of the race meetings that we take throughout the day. 2, 8, and 5. Hugs and Kisses. $3.40 top tote. Masters on Metro, and the 5 gets into 3rd. Do you want to take a quick break, Tim?
Yeah, then we'll get Jamie Cockshut in to get some tips, and then we'll hit our breaking news before we head off.
Yeah.
Duncan McPherson and Les Chapman will be on the line just after 12:30. So let's take a break, refresh, and get stuck into the last half an hour of the show.